What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? We are back here today with a reaction to a Bleacher Report article that lists the Blockbuster NBA offseason trade ideas. I believe there is 5 in here, and obviously they are going to include some Utah Jazz ones. This was uploaded on April 24th, so a little bit over a week ago. So I'm going to be going through each trade. Do I think it's realistic? Do I think it makes sense for both teams? And if if I like the idea, I can maybe bounce off it, and I can say, okay, maybe take out this, throw in this, and this is a good deal and a fair deal in my eyes. So if you guys enjoy these videos, drop a thumbs up and let me know down below any of these off-season trades you like or any of maybe the suggestions I like. Just let me know. So we can get right into it with Utah Hits Reset Part 1. So this involves a Rudy Gobert trade, which makes me think there's the Part 2, which will have a Donovan Mitchell trade. So this is Rudy Gobert getting traded to the Portland Trailblazers. I like that destination for Portland and for Rudy. It is Portland's best defender ever since having Damian Lillard. And what way to improve your defense? By adding arguably the best defensive player in the NBA. You give up Eric Bledsoe, Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow, 2022 first-round pick. I believe that is going to be their top 10 one. 2025 top 4 protected pick via Milwaukee, and a second. Honestly, I think that's a great trade for Portland, especially if they are in the latter half of the top 10. Like, if you're missing out on the Chet, Paolo, Jabari Smiths, Jaden Ivies of the world, like one of those 4, I would trade Johnny Davis in this trade to get Rudy Gobert. And yes, you're going to be paying almost $100 million to Rudy Gobert and Damian Lillard, but it'll at least help you contend next year in a year where you don't have your first-round pick from the Larry Nance trade. As for Utah, I don't think they would accept this trade. I don't think this is enough in return. I think if they were to move Gobert, they want to build around Donovan Mitchell. And yes, this helps their young core by adding, who knows, a Keegan Murray, an AJ Griffin, a Mathurin, a Johnny Davis to this team. All are wings, which they do need help around that position. You get Keon Johnson, a nice young piece, but Winslow's like a sunk cost at this point. Bledsoe, not really. I mean, he's an okay backup point guard for you, I guess, and you get a future first-round pick down the line, which isn't bad. I mean, I like this a lot more for Portland because I don't think they're really giving up too much with their team. But as for Utah, I think if they were going to make a big deal for Gobert, maybe this is the most they'd get, though. I just don't think it's enough in return for Mr. Rudy Gobert. Next up, we have Utah Hits Reset Part 2. Okay, this is not involving a Donovan Mitchell trade. This is Mike Conley for Brandon Boston, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris, and a 2027 first-round swap. I think, first of all, this is a great deal for Utah. I think the way Mike Conley played in the playoffs, they would not get 2 young players and a pick swap and a veteran that could still help you right now that's making, less than Mike Conley is. So I think this is going to be a no from the Clippers because I think the Clippers should be in the market for a point guard if they can get creative and get like a Malcolm Brogdon or even if it's a Mike Conley. I just don't think giving up Mann, Boston, and the swap is worth it for Conley. I think maybe Malcolm Brogdon, a point guard that can do a couple or maybe provide you better defense, maybe more efficiency as well at the point guard position. He'd be a player that I would give up that package for. But for Mike Conley, I don't really think he makes you that much better. He's better than Reggie Jackson and the point guards you've had in the past, but not much better where you should kind of gut the only young core pieces you have in Brandon Boston and Terrence Mann and giving up another swap in which you don't need to do because you barely have any of your own first round picks going forward and swap. So just giving another one up is not worth it for Mike Conley, even unless you think this is the last year of the Kawhi PG window. But since they both signed contract extensions, I don't believe it is. Next up, we will have Washington lands a backcourt mate for Beal. And speaking of Malcolm Brogdon, look at that segue. So it is Kyle Kuzma or KCP and Rui Hashimura. Okay. Maybe I don't know. I feel like that's not a lot for Malcolm Brogdon. I would do this 10 times out of 10 if I were Washington, even if it meant keeping Kuzma, and I could trade KCP and Rui Hashimura. What? I don't think they're valuing Malcolm Brogdon as they should, especially if he's going to be like the best point guard on the trade market, which I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon than John Wall. I'd rather have his contract. I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon than Mike Conley. I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon than like Markelle Fultz or I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other point guard that could potentially. I think I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon than D'Angelo Russell on a contending team or a team trying to win. I think I would give up more for Brogdon. So I don't really think this is a fair trade package for Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe I'm overvaluing him, but I don't think KCP and Rui Hachimura can get it done. I don't even think Kuzma and Rui Hachimura can get it done. I just don't think they'd be very interested in Rui at this point because Rui's going to be a free agent next year. I doubt he's going to get an extension from Washington. You could just go after him in free agency if you really like him. And maybe you like Kuzma, but Kuzma, he's up there in age. It's not like he's like this budding young prospect. And yeah, I would love the Wizards to get Malcolm Brogdon. It would be a good piece next to Beal, and you would have Porzingis. And yeah, that team could definitely fight for a play-in tournament spot or a playoff spot in 2023. Maybe it helps keep Beal around. Does it get them over the hump and make them better than Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Philly, Brooklyn? No, it does not. But you know what? It keeps you kind of in that conversation, and maybe you can beat Atlanta, or maybe you could beat, who else could they possibly beat? Maybe Toronto if the things go their way. So I think this is not enough to get Malcolm Brogdon, but I do like the idea of Malcolm Brogdon in Washington. I might consider them giving up maybe Kispert or a first-round pick instead of like KCP. Or Denny Avdia, which I doubt they want to do. Next up, we have Charlotte bags a rim protector. So this is Myles Turner to Charlotte. We've talked about this for over a year now. We thought this was going to happen at the deadline. I guess it's just going to be kind of, reintroduced just because of the Gordon Hayward rumors that he wants out of Charlotte. So this is the Indiana Pacers received Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, and the 15th overall pick for Myles Turner and TJ McConnell. Wow, not CJ McCollum. I think this is actually a pretty good return for Indiana because you land the 15th overall pick along with your lottery pick. So you're adding 2 top 15 players in this upcoming draft, which is not a bad draft. I think it's probably better. It's better than 2020's draft, I would say, going into it. Last year was a pretty good draft. But I would say this is a good return because Gordon Hayward, it depends if Indiana wants to still be competitive next year because, hey, you have Brogdon, Halliburton, Gordon Hayward, and then you have PJ Washington in that front court, and hey, maybe you land in the lottery a Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith or Banchero, and you can add to that front court. I like that. You know, I'm a fan. Or maybe you add a small forward like an AJ Griffin or something like that, and then you have Gordon Hayward at the 4 and PJ Washington at the 5. Not great defensively, but he can run some small ball there. And Charlotte, I think they definitely need to get Myles Turner. I think that's a great player they need because they need a rim protector. They need somebody kind of in the pick and roll with LaMelo Ball that since he's been in the NBA, best center he's had has been Mason Plumlee, Montrezl Harrell. That hasn't been great so far when you're trying to develop LaMelo, especially as your primary ball handler. So I think getting Myles Turner is worth it. I don't mind giving up Gordon Hayward at all. You kind of save money with that deal. PJ Washington and the 15th overall pick hurts, but honestly, I would do that. I would 100% do that. And you get a good backup point guard. No more Ish Smiths throughout the year. You get TJ McConnell. I actually love this. This is probably my favorite trade so far. I didn't like either of the Utah ones. I think Mike Conley was overvalued. I think Rudy Gobert might have been a tad undervalued. Even though I don't know if Rudy Gobert's value because of his offensive limitations and his contract. And then I also thought Malcolm Brogdon was heavily undervalued. But here, I like this. I don't know. I guess Myles Turner would be worth more than Malcolm Brogdon, but how is Mike Conley worth more than Malcolm Brogdon? Just off age alone. And then finally, we have a wing defender. Oh, going to Charlotte. Okay, so another Charlotte trade. So 2 for Utah, 2 for Charlotte in this video. And this is Charlotte receives Jerami Grant. Pistons receive Terry Rozier, Kai Jones, 13th overall, pending lottery results. Okay, I love this trade for Detroit. I don't think Charlotte should do this. Even though if they're going to give up on Kai Jones, it's not a terrible idea to move Rozier in 13th because maybe you think like when it matters, Rozier and LaMelo, just 2 not great defenders, and Rozier maybe a little bit undersized as well as the 2. They really can't be in your final 5 minutes on the floor defensively. And obviously you're going to choose LaMelo over Rozier. So this isn't a bad idea. You improve your defense. And hey, they would have, if they pull off both these trades, they re-sign Miles Bridges, you'd have a rotation of LaMelo Ball. I guess I'll just say a placeholder right now is James Bouknight. We'll see if they actually play him. Miles Bridges, Jerami Grant, Myles Turner. That's actually pretty good. And I think that balances out well defensively. And you kind of were like, Gordon Hayward's been hurt with his injury concerns. That's also maybe why Indiana wouldn't do that. I don't know. But I actually don't mind this trade in like the grander scheme that they get Jerami Grant and Myles Turner because I think that's a great defensive front court for them, and both of them can space the floor. Not great, but they can. I guess your shooting does get a little bit worse. Moving on from Terry Rozier, who is arguably your best shooter, him and LaMelo. But you're going to bring back Miles Bridges. And then, hey, Kelly Oubre can also slide in there as well. And you can maybe have Kelly Oubre and Myles Bridges on the court together at the same time as your wings. That's fine. And then in the front court, you have Grant and Turner. And I think that gives you a lot of versatility when it comes to switching, when it comes to just, I guess, playing your matchups on in different nights. So I actually like that trade for them as well. So I think those Charlotte trades were, I think, the best ideas. That could make sense down the line. I think Malcolm Brogdon is heavily undervalued in this trade. I think that Mike Conley is heavily overvalued in this trade, and I think Gobert is a little bit undervalued, but that might be the best deal they can get for Gobert. I just thought maybe they'd get a better player or younger asset than Keon Johnson in a Gobert return. Because if you can get Gobert for Ben Simmons, I'd do that. But yeah, that is going to be it for me. Hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did. I'll leave a link to the article in the description below if you want to read it yourself. Love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.